Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. It is Sat Chat time. I am feeling much better this week. Just to give you a heads up in case you're like, oh boy, what is she gonna be throwing at us this time? What sort of problem does she have with the world this week? Oh, I'm feeling so much better. I have had a few good nights of sleep. I had, well, actually one of my students from France recommended trying magnesium something, glycemate, before bed to help you get a good night's sleep. And I did take that a couple nights, and I don't know if that helped or if it was just placebo, but either way, it did help quite a bit. I also reduced my caffeine consumption a couple days, just to kind of rule out that still being in my system when I went to bed. And yeah, I think it was just a lot of it is just getting in the habits of not just getting out of bed when I wake up in the morning. It's like, no, give yourself a chance to get a full night's sleep. And and also sleeping with, because usually I'm cold, and so I don't want to go to sleep with the air conditioning on, and it's been warm this week, and then I'll wake up in the middle of the night and it'll be really hot in the bedroom, so I'm just like, I'll throw an extra like a fluffy blanket on the bed and just go to sleep with AC on, and then, you know, I somehow throw that off in the middle of the night and then sleeping through better. So yes, I'm in a much better mood. I have a more positive attitude. I did go painting last week, my friend Karen and I. Man, Thelma and Louise here. She's definitely the Thelma to my Louise, I've got to say. It's so funny how you meet people sometimes and they're just, yep, that's my person. So we went on an adventure to find this island that I wanted to go paint on, and we put it in the GPS because I'm like, I don't think I remember exactly how to get there. So I didn't remember what road to take. And so we were like almost there and the GPS turned us around. And then we're like driving in the wilderness. There's all these camp roads. I'm like, I don't know where we are. And so then we finally just backtracked, and it was like probably 500 feet from where we turned around. We would have been at the turnoff. But anyway, gorgeous place. I did this painting here. We didn't wander too far. We just kind of like found a place to paint because we knew it was going to start raining. It actually did start raining. Like as soon as we packed up to start heading out, it started to rain. And the tide was coming in, so we would have been stranded where we had hiked out to. But I'm really excited to explore that area more, and even post the location on the Plein Air Painters of Maine group, because there is a porta potty there, and that is the rule for posting in the Plein Air Painters of Maine group. The area has to be free, and it has to have restroom facilities, and that's the only rule right there. So I know that's a place I can post now, which is great because I think the more the merrier. And today we're going to the Botanical Gardens in Boothbay Harbor, and they're actually having plein air days all weekend. And it is supposed to be kind of like a rainy pattern, so hopefully there's enough peaks of sun for people that are going throughout the rest of the weekend. But I'm filming this on Friday morning. We're going Friday afternoon, and the rain is supposed to be, it's let up by like noon or 1 or so. And it's supposed to be pretty nice. I think it's still going to be overcast, but it should be pretty nice for the rest of the afternoon, not raining anyway. And just beautiful botanical gardens. It's right on the coast, so you can do seascapes, you could do flowers, you could do whatever. Lots of options. I think I'm just going to bring a sketchbook. I mean, I'm going to bring a sketchbook, my portable painter, a bottle of water, a couple brushes. I'm not going to get too fancy because the more I bring, the less I do. And I don't want to be, I don't have time to really overthink it. I'm just going to grab my bag and go. My bag's always set up in the summertime for just watercolor plein air painting. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So what else is new? I found out I'm working on a big project, a big freelance project, and I actually have it set up in the room of Hoard with I have a over the desk mount in there. And I had painted all my two big tables white before I left for France, so they'd have plenty of time to cure and dry. But then I found myself being very nervous to work on them because I'm like, I don't want to stain them. They look so pristine. And so I put a couple silicone mats in here, and then my cutting mat back down to kind of preserve the white table in here. I found that I painted over like 2 pieces of tape, like cellophane tape, that I had probably stuck down on my table because I was using my ScanNCut, and I just stick the tape. I always tape my paper down just for a fail-safe, so because sometimes you'll be cutting and then like the paper will come loose because the mat's really low tack. And I painted over a couple pieces of tape. Oh, but I just kind of pushed them down with my fingernail. I'm just going to try not to look at them because they'll bother me if I know that I've got 2 pieces of tape that I painted over. But in the other room, I don't have anything on the table. So I had purchased a back, we inherited a nice table that had been in my husband's family for a while. And it has, it's older, so it doesn't have like polyurethane as a finish. It's got like some sort of wax, so you have to like protect it with placemats, tablecloths, things like that, because otherwise like any moisture leaves rings on the wood. And so we like having a tablecloth, but I just hate having to wash a tablecloth all the time because, I mean, when the kids were home and we ate every meal at the table, we ate every breakfast and dinner at the table, the tablecloth would get gross. Even with placemats, it seemed to still get gross. And so I'm like, I know, I'm going to go to the Dollar Tree and buy a tablecloth cover, just a plastic tablecloth cover. And it looks so tacky. Oh my word, it was so tacky looking. So I'm like, I'm not going to have this on my kitchen table all the time. But I saved it. And then I thought, when my husband built an outdoor couch out of wood, he built a couch for the porch, and we put cushions on it. We bought some cushions to put on it. And I'm like, well, instead of bringing the cushions in all the time, I'll just throw that thing on there if I think it's going to rain. But it didn't work. It was too lightweight. But I still saved it because I know one day I will have the perfect use for that. And they're like, I know what I could put on my white table over there, and it's perfect. It's perfect. It's just, and it's like just maybe a little bit thicker than like plastic wrap. It's not as thick as like poly that you would like bank your house with or something, or like a tarp. It's not that thick, but it's perfect. It goes right over that door table perfectly. I wrote the word top on all four corners just so I would know what is the upside, because it's actually bigger than my door and I can tuck it under the door. I have those 9 cubby cubes. I've told you about it before, like what I have over there. Can I turn that? Like these? Those are on the ends, and then I put the door across the top because we have a ranch, and like a 1970s ranch, and so it had the sliding doors on the closets, and those are just a nightmare. So we had taken those down. And I'm like, no, we're saving those. They might come in handy. And they've come in handy for like yard sales and for all sorts of stuff. But I've always used them for my work surfaces because I always want to move stuff around, and I like things to be lightweight and mobile, and they're so lightweight but sturdy. And yeah, so I've used them for my benches and tables and whatnot, and they work great. And every couple of years I repaint them because they get so gross. So anyway, all of this to say is that I have a big freelance project out there. I'm doing a class for another, for a company, and I didn't know when everything was due. A lot of times when, you know, things are planned, they're kind of fast and loose. You're kind of like fitting things in around your regular schedule. Most of my efforts and income come from my Teachable School and my YouTube channel, and that's great, but it's also good to like diversify and have other projects that you do, just, you know, because you never know. YouTube ads often will take a hit because something will happen and advertisers will bail out, or the economy is not doing great and advertisers will bail out, or some other YouTubers do awful things on the platform which scare advertisers and advertisers bail out. And that's just part of the ebb and flow on YouTube, and having a little bit of something else to buffer is good. And also, if you like the company's products, and I don't know, I just love to teach, and it gives me a way to reach other people that may not be interested in my normal YouTube content. It gets me in front of those eyeballs, which is really good. So I've had that set up over there, and I was thinking I was on borrowed time. I did not know when the content was due, and I was thinking it's probably due this month. It's probably due like yesterday, but I found out it was due like July 8th. So I'm like, oh, I got all this time, but I can't get into that mindset of I've got all day, because otherwise I will not prioritize it. So I definitely want to finish it up, but I'm on lesson 2 of like a 5-lesson course, and I wanted to leave a camera set up there, and I thought, oh, maybe I could set up a camera in here so I could do my filming for YouTube and critique club and things like that in here, and have that set up in there. But I'm like, oh, my other cameras aren't as good. I know I need to buy a secondary camera, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to spend a lot of money on a secondary camera. But then I'm like, well, anything I buy that's not as good as my main camera, it's not as expensive as my main camera, is going to be probably as good as my old video camera here that I loved because it had a pause record feature, so I could do all sorts of in-camera editing, which was awesome, but the quality is not great. So I was like, you know, no, don't just buy a duplicate. What would you say to somebody that was going to buy like a set of watercolors that were not as good as the regular set of watercolors they had, you would say just use what you have. So I'm just using what I have. So I took down the camera. See, the thing is, the camera mount that I have in there, it's a little more difficult to get my camera on and off of it because I have to turn my camera. The screw doesn't turn. In here the screw turns. It's very easy to put my camera on and off the tripod, but that one's a little bit trickier. But I do need the higher quality video for that. So I guess I'll just be moving my camera, because then I'm like, no, the smart thing would be to actually upgrade your camera, because you've had this one for like 4 or 5 years. It'd be better for the next camera purchase to be an upgrade. And yes, it's going to be more expensive, but it's going to be an upgrade, and then that can be your backup camera. So I just don't have the bandwidth to think about it. And I think sometimes when I am in kind of like a stressy place, like I was last Sat Chat, and just feeling kind of like overwhelmed and like I don't have time to do the fun, creative stuff I want to do, I think if I buy the thing, that's almost as good as doing the thing, and then I'm magically going to have all this time. I think it's like a self-soothing thing. So luckily I cut that off at the pass. I didn't buy the cheaper camera. I didn't buy anything, because I've bought plenty recently, I feel like, including a tube. I don't know if I told you about this. A couple weeks ago I ordered a tube of white paint from Japan. Honestly, because I've been looking for this paint for a couple of years. A few years ago, I reviewed this paint called Aquela, and it was by the Kusakabe brand. And last summer, I was bringing it out plein air painting. I'm like, oh, I love this paint. The thing is, I can't get replacement tubes because they don't even sell the sets in America anymore. And they were only like, it was weird. I think they were going to try to like test their waters in the American market, and they sent me a set of paints to review. They sent a few other YouTubers a set of paints for review. We all love the paint. It's great paint. It's like a combination. It's a water-based resin. It's a water-based alkyd resin. So it's not quite like a water mixable oil. It's not like an acrylic. You can thin it down and use it like watercolor. You can use it thick like oils. It's reworkable, kind of like gouache, for like 24 hours, and then you let it cure for a couple weeks. It's a really cool paint. It's not like anything I've tried before. I loved it, but the white was running low. And I'm like, well, now I'm not gonna be able to use the rest of these 18 colors. If I could just get a tube of white, that would at least make it so I could use up the rest of these colors. And couldn't find it, searched, couldn't find it anywhere. And so I'm like, well, so they've just been sitting. I haven't wanted to use them because I'm gonna use up the white, and then the rest of it's just gonna be useless. And I'm like, well, just use it up. Use up the white, and when it's done, just get rid of the paint. But then I heard Kusakabe was coming out with these different granulating watercolor sets. I'd seen, I think, in the Paint and Hiding YouTube channel. And so then I did a little Google search to see if they were there, but they weren't. However, one tube of Kusakabe Aquela white paint. And it says, like, I'm not sure what size of tube I'm getting, because on one thing it said 2.3 ounces, and the other thing said 6 point something ounces, and I looked at the measurements of the tube and it was like almost 2 inches by 7 inches. So I'm like, that's gotta be a big tube. It's $20, but that was including shipping. So I ordered it. It's gonna be here on the 17th. It has arrived in the country. I'm watching the journey of this tube of paint from Japan to my little house in Maine, and I'm very much looking forward to that, because I have all my Aquela paints in my Pashad box, which oh, this is another thing. This is another thing. I actually should get some footage for this today. Last year I was planning this, and I got all the footage in a folder on my desktop of different plein air painting setups, because we're all different. We all like different things. I tend to be pretty simple. I have a Pashad box. I have a French easel. I have a French easel with 2 drawers. One drawer has traditional oil paints. One drawer has pastels. And for pastel painting plein air, I love that box, but it's going to be for drive up plein air because it's too heavy for me to carry around for too much. I'm not going to be hiking into the woods with that French easel. It's too heavy. Even this Pashad box is lighter, but there's a tripod, then there's the box. It just seems like a big ordeal, and I do not like things that are a big ordeal, which I think is why I don't make cards as much that often. By the way, I have a new collection at Craft Stash, which I've totally forgot to promote, but it's very vintagey, floral, vintagey library, library. The fact it has bookmarks and library pockets. I'll link it below if you want to check it out. Obviously, no pressure. Get what you want to get. I totally get it if you're not into cards anymore, because it does seem like a big ordeal. The class I'm filming in there is a mixed media for card making class, and it's turning into a big ordeal. That's why I need a whole room for that class, because it cannot interfere with what I'm doing in my main stuff, just because it takes, I'm going to end up with like probably 5 dozen cards out of this, because I've stamped, die cut, paper dyed, painted so many backgrounds. And then all the papers that I was using to protect my plastic, the table area, was beautiful. So I had to save that and had to turn that into backgrounds. And then the cheap cardstock that I was using for blotting off things, well, that's beautiful, so I have to use that for something. So it's like, if you give a moose a muffin, they're going to ask for some jam to go with it. If you give Lindsay some watercolor brush pens and some watercolor paper, then you're going to need some dyes to go with it. Then you're going to need some cardstock to go with it. Then you're going to need some, scraps of fabric to go with it. Then you're going to, it's just a snowball. It snowballs. I feel like mixed media and card making snowballs. Mixed media, not even so much, because I can contain it to a sketchbook. But when you get into the card making and the die cutting and the stamping, it snowballs. And then, oh, what about this? I got to try that. What if I tried that? What if I did that? How about if I do this? And then before you know it, you've got 100 cards. And you don't know 100 people to send them to. It just gets out of control. And I don't have a shop anymore where I sell stuff. Before, I think when I was making cards more often, I had a shop downtown. I rented a booth at the Schoolhouse Antiques Mall. So I would keep that chock-a-block full, because I was always making stuff, especially cards. And those cards sold really well, because people would buy the greeting cards to go with other things they bought in the antique store. So like if somebody's buying like somebody's buying a set of Fiesta ware or something for a gift for somebody. They're buying a jar of buttons, or they're buying, I don't know what people buy for gifts for people at antique stores, ironstone pottery. So people collect things, and then people will look for those things that their friends and family collect for gifts. And so they would buy a greeting card to go with it. So it was great. It worked out great. And then I've done consignment at different shops too, and that's gone great. But these places have all gone under. Well, the Schoolhouse Antiques Mall is still there, but I don't have it in me to manage a whole booth. And I mean, that's the long and short of it. I don't make enough. I didn't make enough. I made it all right, but a lot of it was just kind of decimating artwork into the world, and a lot of times I just broke even. So it just really, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as to say. So I'm not doing that anymore. But I mean, if I had more places to sell cards, are people even sending cards anymore? Postage is going up next month, by the way. So buy some stamps now. Those forever stamps will be good. I've always toyed with buying a roll of stamps, but I like to see what the new offerings are. So anytime I have to go to the post office to mail something, I will buy a bunch of different artsy stamps, because I think postage stamps are so cool. They're like little mini artworks. They're very functional. They're functional art, but they are going up. I'm not sure what they're going up to. I don't even know what a stamp costs right now, because I just buy them and it's like sticker shock. It's literal sticker shock, because the stamps are like stickers now, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'll take a book of those, I'll take a book of those, I'll take a sheet of those, and then it's like, that'll be $52. It's like, oh my god. That was unexpected, but you'll use them, and the price is only going up. Now they have forever stamps, which is good. But anyway, oh, what was I don't know what I was talking about. Yeah, I have a collection at Craft Stash. It's great stuff. It's definitely timeless stuff. I do have a video on it if you want to check that out. But yeah, I'm gonna go plein air painting at the Botanical Gardens today. And I have a Michael's class next Friday. So next Friday, we're trying to do plein air Fridays every week, but I probably won't be able to next week, because I have a Michael's class at 2 p.m. Eastern, that I'll be home for, and I'll film my sat chat before that. I think I've got a call with somebody before that. You know me, I'm always wheeling and dealing, apparently. Gosh, what else? I filmed the last episode of my art chat series on my podcast for this season. What am I, a real business? I filmed that yesterday, and 2 days ago, and I was talking with Cinnamon Cooney, the art Sherpa, and it's a great conversation. I do want to give you a little bit of a trigger warning, though. This podcast will be up tomorrow, which is Sunday. We do discuss mental health, because Cinnamon was very open about sharing her struggle that she recently had with mental health, and I just want to give you guys a heads up. If you're thinking about watching that podcast, just know that that's content. It doesn't get really deep into the weeds, but if it's something you just don't want to hear about in your happy art space, then I completely understand. And we do actually talk about YouTube for about 20 minutes, and there is a little bit of an intro to it, so you'll know what's coming if you want to start and then like dip out of the conversation. I totally get that. But I just want to kind of pre-warn it. Just, I know not everybody reads the video description. I know that, you know, I just don't want to surprise anybody because this is everybody's happy space. And anytime I dip into something that's a little bit controversial and I forget to do a trigger warning, I always feel bad because I want people to come here and feel good. And but you know, we all have to commiserate sometimes, don't we? Right? We all have to commiserate sometimes. And yeah, it was great. It was a nice conversation because we've both been on the platform for so long. We've known each other for so long that it's always fun to talk with the OG people that you met when you were first starting. And even if you've lost touch here and there along the way, it's you know, with friendships, a lot of you can fall right back in step with them and have a good conversation. Last week's conversation was really good when we talked to Miranda Watson. I didn't know how that was going to be received. Miranda is such a sweet, honest person, and I think my community at large is mostly kind-hearted people that take things in the intention that they're presented in. And that's how it went, which I was really glad. We all talked about our struggles. We all talked, and you know, the more when I think about that podcast, because I do listen back to them, I listen back to them audio only because I want to, because I do watch back, but I listen back audio only because I always get something different when I listen back. And I think something that has become very, very noticeable and something I've realized a lot with the shopping culture in the arts and crafts space is that it's something that we do to self-soothe, I think. I mean, obviously we buy stuff because we want to try it, because we're curious about it. I have been stocking wet strength tissue paper ever since I interviewed Julie Faith Balzer on the podcast, and I wanted to try it so bad, but I want to get the best price per sheet, and that which comes in like a 480 sheet roll, which like, no, buying this does not mean I'm going to have all this time to use it. If I had all this time to make all these collage papers, I could be doing it with the mulberry paper I have stashed, with the deli paper I have stashed, with the masa paper I have stashed. I don't need this new awesome paper. And then I saw tea bag papers recommended to me on Amazon, probably because I keep looking at that wet strength tissue paper, hoping the price will drop. It started at $68 for 480 sheets when I first found out about it, and it's up to like $100. And I'm like, I will not pay that. And I, you know, what I probably should do is just buy it on Joggles because they have smaller sheet bags. But then I don't have enough other things I need to order to justify ordering that. But anyway, but I think it's like, and like the whole camera thing, I think it's like, I want to be more efficient. If I have that thing, I will be a better person. If I have that thing, I can be more efficient. I can film in both rooms. I can, you know, get stuck on the project in there and come in here and work on something else that I've been wanting to work at. And I can like have different filming stations, so I never have to take a break. I can just go from beep, 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 beep. I'm going to be a better version of myself if I buy this thing. And I think that that's one of the reasons that we buy stuff. We're like, I'm going to be a better version. I'm going to be a better version of myself. I'm going to be fantasy Lindsay, who is way better than reality Lindsay, who's just lame and boring and she doesn't know what she's doing. I'm going to be fantasy Lindsay, who's fabulous, because I'm going to be able to be more productive. I'm going to create better art. I'm going to have better stuff. You know, I have a bottle of primer in my cart because somebody I saw, then I wasn't even watching a makeup video. I was watching a just kind of like how to, you know, revamp yourself after 40, I think, video. And she was using this primer that's going to change your friggin' life. And put that in my cart. I didn't buy it. I was also thinking, oh, come on, maybe I need those contour sticks. I never use contour sticks. Oh, maybe that's going to change my life. That's going to make me a whole better person. So I had to go look for that. Had to look for the primer. And then, you know, and it's just, I think we do it because we have this optimism that this thing is going to make us so much better. We're going to be a way better version of ourselves if we buy this thing. Or we buy it to self-soothe. Like, one day I want to have the time to use this, so I better buy it now while it's still available. I think that's something that we see a lot with, especially in the craft industry, because stuff gets discontinued constantly. And I mean, I mean, being able to see kind of behind the curtain a bit, designing product, it's you know, they don't like to re-release things because they say it's just going to sit on our shelves in our warehouse if we release it. Like the sketchbook floozy stencils that sold out really quickly. They're like, well, if we release the same ones, they're just going to sit in the warehouse. And so they don't want to do that. And I don't want to make stuff that's just going to sit on shelves and not, you know, and not sell, and eventually, I don't know, either be discontinued or sent to landfill or whatever, I don't know. They obviously know what they're doing, but it does engender this fear of missing out. You know, I was just talking to a friend on Messenger this morning about like, oh, the perfect paper, and I have to buy 2 sheets, one to use and one to hoard because I won't be able to get it again. But if it's double-sided paper, then I gotta buy 4 sheets because it's just insane. And yeah, I'm looking at you, Graphic 45, and your beautiful Alice in Wonderland, Alice in Halloween Land papers that I've got on my shelf because heaven forbid I use them. It's going to be the most perfect, precious project It's going to be the perfect, precious project for me to use that paper up on. So if you ever get a card from me using that paper, you know you are friggin' special. It's just madness. It's just madness. And you know, it's like, I know, like when I designed the stamp sets, the collection that I have with Craft Stash, I wanted to be timeless. I didn't want to be something that people have to be like, oh, I can't use that now, it's out of style, it's not trendy. But I know they're not going to re-release it if it sells out because they're like, it's just going to sit. There's only so much market for these products. And because there's only so much market and the market is shrinking as people age out, as people get overwhelmed, they have to come up with more things in order to keep their doors open. It's just a mess. And then they're competing with counterfeits on Temu and other sites like that. But then again, there's only so many ideas. And, you know, I love vintage inspired stuff. So you probably have very similar things in your stash from, you know, 20 years ago. So do you need this new stuff? Probably not. You probably can find something to do the exact same thing. So I'm not going to tell you to buy my stuff. If you got something in your stash, it will do a very similar thing. Even though I did my illustrations and they're obviously going to be different, you can still get the same vibe. You know what I mean? So anyway, all of this to say is I'm going to go painting very soon. In fact, my phone has just buzzed at me a couple times, probably to say, get your act together, lady. You're going to be picked up in 20 minutes and be ready. I'm going to throw a sketchbook, probably this one. I'm going to throw this. I might throw 2. No, because I'm wearing I have a tank top on. I don't know how hot it's going to be, but my backpack, my art backpack, the straps are like those nylon webbed straps. They are not comfortable. For the last 20 years, I've been telling myself I'm going to sew padded straps for that thing. Have I done that? No, I have not. But yeah, I'm going to keep it light. My water bottle will be the heaviest thing I bring. I'm always a light packer anyway, but yeah, definitely necessary today. But I always keep my bag ready to go, so it's kind of a non-issue. Did I have anything else to talk about? I don't know, but I'm feeling better. I did want to let everybody know that. New podcast tomorrow, and backlogs on my YouTube channel and on a podcast app you might enjoy. That's all. Thank you for watching. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.